Welcome to the Black Report on Fox Soul. This is a space where our voice is heard, and we give you the headlines and the latest in black news and views. I'm Romeo, along with Brooke, Kane, Brianna, and Cece's out today.
Today, folks, we have a special report. We remember the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March with March co-organizer Dr. Ben Chavis, and Dr. Edmund Moore joins us to recount his journey to the march and how it changed his life.
Reverend Lennox Yearwood joins us to discuss the black vote and so much more. You ready? It's our voice, our truth. Let's get it. Brown people are tired of dying.
You know you didn't do anything.
So entirely heartbreaking.
Here we go again. I can't believe it. Here are the headlines for today. Today is the 25th anniversary of the legendary Million Man March in Washington, D.C., in which black men from all over the country came together in the center of the capital of the USA to demand change for the better for black people. Organized at first by the Nation of Islam and charismatic and controversial leader Louis Farrakhan, the event was then directed by Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr., the former executive director of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Many credit Chavis, Jr. for being the chief architect of the huge protest, said by some to be the largest gathering of African Americans in history. The 25th anniversary is being celebrated in various places across the U.S. today, with black people recalling the inspirational spirit that fired up a protest that echoed the greatest civil rights marches of 1960s. Today on the Black Report, we remember the Million Man March, and joining us now is co-organizer of the march and chair of the Black Press. Welcome, Dr. Ben Chavis. Welcome back to the Black Report. How are you doing?
Doing fine. It's so good to be back on the Black Report. Greetings to all of you.
Thank you. Peace and love on the anniversary of the Million Man March. But let's go back to 1995. How did you get involved with the march?
Well, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asked me to be the national director, the key organizer of the Million Man March in April of 1995. So I had 6 months from April to October to get the permit for the march, to do the logistics for the march, to establish 300 local organizer committees in 300 cities and towns across the country, to get over 1 million brothers. We counted about 1.8 million throughout that day. Monday was October 16th of 1995. So people started arriving in D.C. on that Sunday afternoon. And by the time the sun came up on the morning of October 16th, 1995, that Monday morning, we had 750,000 at 6 a.m. And so by 10 a.m., we had exceeded our goal of having over 1 million black men standing shoulder to shoulder in unity from across faith lines, across denominational lines, across socioeconomic lines. It was the largest single gathering of black men in the history of the world.
Beautiful. Now my question is, how instrumental were women in mobilizing this event, and who were some of the women involved? Because I did read an article where, women and members of the LGBTQ community were excluded. And obviously my producer cleared that up earlier this morning. Shout out to Niel. So I would love for you to explain that.
Women were very much included. Yes. Dr. Dorothy Height, Maya Angelou, Rosa Parks, Dr. Betty Shabazz, the wife of Malcolm X, all not only helped to mobilize for the Million Man March, but they also addressed the Million Man March. They were on the program. We would not have had a Million Man March without 1 million women supporting the brothers to get to Washington safely and to return home safely. In fact, the Million Man March was a salute, particularly to black women, because we took a pledge that day that we would go back home and take care of our families, take care of our communities, and make a better atonement to our sisters as well as our families. And that was the whole purpose of the march, to see what we could do for ourselves, see what we could raise and protect the resources in our community. And at the time, there was a lot of black on black crime going on. I'm pleased to report to you on that Monday, October the 16th, 1995, black on black crime went down to zero, not only in Washington, D.C., but across the United States of America. So we proved that we could do it one day. The challenge now is to do it every day. 25 years later, we still need the spirit of the Million Man March.
25 years ago today. Dr. Ben Chavis joining us here on the Black Report. Talk to us. What was it like working with Minister Louis Farrakhan?
It was great. I'm at the time, I was an ordained minister, still am an ordained minister in the United Church of Christ. So a Christian minister working with a Muslim minister, man, it was like having fellowship. We worked together, It was not only division of labor, but we actually stood together in many places because some people had never seen Christians and Muslims work together like what happened at the Million Man March. It was not only a rhetorical expression of unity, it was a practical reality of working together. Again, when we stand together, we are a blessed people. We're not a cursed people, but we need to pool our blessings, celebrate our blessings, and so that's what happened at the Million Man March. And actually, 25 years later, it's still a pattern, a model that we should be using right now for grassroots organizing. I look at the Black Lives Matter movement. I think that they could learn from the lessons. I don't think that we should necessarily repeat the past, but we should learn from the past. And certainly, there were a lot of learnings from the Million Man March.
Dr. Chavis, we're glad to have you here this morning. And I want to go back to the role of women in the march. And yes. I appreciate you pointing out that they helped mobilize them. And we know about women's role when it comes to civil rights in the history of our country. Why do you think, knowing what we know, they were part of the program, they were speaking. This was also about women. Why do you think the role of women and the importance of women in this has been minimized so much when people think back about those days? We were talking about different articles that are written and yes. kind of the way people talk about it. Why do you think that role has been so minimized? I think
overall American society is a sexist society. I think women, keep in mind, there was once a time women couldn't vote. Right. There once a time that black people couldn't vote. So the extent to which that blacks and women unite for civil rights, for human rights, it makes better for the whole human race. But I think the mainstream media, if you recall, back in 1995, tried to pit women against men, saying that this is that women were being excluded, which was not true. I happen to know that thousands of sisters came to the Million Man March, and some of them got married after the Million Man March. Wow. They found their man at the Million Man March.
Okay, now.
So we need to correct the record and say that it was an expression of unity. In fact, if you look at all of the program that day, it was black men stepping forward. And the first thing we said, we respect our sisters, we respect our mothers, we respect our daughters, we respect black women. This was, if anything, the Million Man March was a salute to black women.
Yeah, it definitely was. And Doctor, I want to go back to 1995 because I know I was a youngin' growing up in St. Louis at that time, and yes. we couldn't make it to the march, sir, but we made sure we walked through our neighborhoods. We cleaned the neighborhoods, our surrounding neighborhoods. So what was the energy like there in 1995?
Well, it was a real great unity, spiritual unity, but also there were so many anecdotes. Roma, you may not believe this, but some brothers, some young men found their fathers for the first time at the Million Man March. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Those kind of things happen. The National Association of Black Social Workers announced that there were some 25,000 black children that needed to be adopted. Nobody wanted to adopt a black child. This is in 1995. After the Million Man March, all 25,000 of those young children got adopted by black families. So it made a difference. I could just go on and list a lot of statistics after the march, the impact of the march. Brothers went back, so many brothers went back to Detroit to pay their child support for the first time.
Wow.
They had to hire tellers in the welfare office to accept the payments. I mean, it was an amazing distribution. And when you were in St. Louis, I know a lot of the brothers who did make it to St. Louis, they went back, and there was a spirit of unity in St. Louis as a result, and also East St. Louis as a result of the Million Man March. It was coast to coast, east, west, north, and south. And
yes,
I have to say, I know you'll be interested in this, there were Bloods and Crips at the march in unity, wearing their colors in unity. It wasn't about pulling each other down. It was about mutually supporting one another.
That's beautiful.
Now, we understand that it unified a lot of people. Did you receive any resistance?
Well, yes, we received some resistance, primarily from people that did not understand the purpose, people who had never seen anything. And quite frankly, keep in mind, this is 1995, there was also a fear. Some people feared that many black men coming together. The law enforcement agencies were very nervous. They thought we were going to storm the Capitol. It was peaceful. And let me give you another anecdote. We had to pay $20,000 to the sanitation department to clean up the march. We had to pay it in advance. After the march, they refunded us to $20,000 because there was not one shred of paper left on the mall.
Come on now.
The mall was clean. 1 million men. And if you go to these 4th of July celebrations, other celebrations on the mall, it takes them several days just to clean up.
Yeah.
There was no damage to the mall. There was a celebration. Again, those are the key points of not only the solidarity, but it was peaceful. There was no drama. There was no rivalry. There was no bickering. When it came time to take up the offering, people put so much money in there, we didn't have enough containers to take up the offering.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was just a great sense of joy and accomplishment. Yeah. But again, I want to, my earlier point, what can we learn from the Million Man March 25 years later? Look at what is going on in our communities right now. Do you know in 2020, people are still questioning whether or not we should vote? Do you know in 2020, unfortunately, in some communities, we have gang violence once again. So we got to learn from our history, not repeat it. And one of the things we can learn is that we need more unity among us, among the organizations, and it should be intergenerational. I'm so pleased that the young people today who were not born 25 years ago can learn from this anniversary of the Million Man March.
Dr. Ben Chavis joining us here on the Black Report. And I was going to say, to that point, 25 years since the Million Man March, 25 years later, what are some of your thoughts on the state of Black men as a whole and our people?
Well, that's a very good question. My perspective is that, particularly to our young millennials, our Black men, our young Black men, you're the most gifted, you're the most talented, you're the most intelligent. You're certainly the most verbose, self-expressive. All you need is the right encouragement. There's so much that discourages our young people, almost a put down. One of the reasons why we have a rash of police brutality because young brothers feel like they're the target. You know, if you drive a nice car, if you dress nice, you get pulled over. You know, driving while Black, walking while Black, breathing while Black, you know, eating while Black, just existing while Black is a greater weight on young men today, 25 years later, than it was in 1995. So how do we handle that? One of the things that we learned, we should turn to each other, not on each other. And in turning to each other, we can lift each other up.
Turn to each other. Very powerful words, Doctor.
Dr. Chavis, speaking of the now, can you tell us about your new podcast?
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
A new podcast is coming out. It's going to be called A Luta Continua. That means the struggle continues. But also, you know, since it's PBS, it's non-commercial, I'll just tell you this. We have a new television show called The Chavis Chronicles that will be chronicling the civil rights movement. And I'm going to be talking about the Black Report on the Chavis Chronicles.
Hey, now. Thank you, Dr. Chavis. Yes, sir.
Definitely looking forward to that. Now, what is the role of the Black press in the 2020 election? And is the Black press being supported by the campaigns financially as they are with the mainstream newspapers?
Another very good question. We have 230 African-American-owned newspapers. We reach about 25 million people a week in print. Now that we've established an NMPA digital network, we reach more daily. We have not received any funding currently in the current campaign from the Trump administration. We have received some funding from the Biden administration. We work in a nonpartisan way to get the vote out. The Black press is working in every precinct, in every county, across the nation to get the vote out. In the words of Congressman Jim Clyburn, 2020 would be the most consequential election in our lifetime. It was that way in 2008 when Barack Obama ran for president and got elected. But now this is 2020. So the quality of life, you know, we are amidst a pandemic that's disproportionately affecting the health of our community. At the same time, there's a resurgence of an epidemic of systemic racism. So we have all these things converging on our people. So I believe that this voting, and look, you've seen the long lines. There's voter suppression in many places, trying to prevent people to vote, trying to talk out of voting. But I'm encouraging our brothers and sisters to vote. And I know you got Reverend Yearwood coming on from the Hip Hop Caucus. I'm part of the hip hop. I'm an OG of the Hip Hop Caucus.
Yes, you are.
Along with him. So I definitely support, respect my vote. We were on a bus tour years ago with Reverend Yearwood and the Hip Hop Caucus. I'm so glad to know he's still on the case and on the front line.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, Doctor, we want to thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your commitment to the liberation and upliftment of Black people. Thank you.
Thank you, and we really appreciate what you do on the Black Report. And I'm very serious. I'm going to be lifting y'all up. I'm going to invite all of y'all on the Chavis Chronicles. Y'all don't have me on the Black Report, so I got to have some reciprocity.
Yeah, I love that, Dr. Ben Chavis.
Thank you.
Tell Jim Jones what up, Dr. Ben.
I will. Dipset.
Hey! Gang all day. Be safe, Dr. Ben. Love you, brother.
God bless.
God bless, brother. Let's reflect on those words from Dr. Ben Chavis at the Million Man March.
This is a march for and by Black men, supported by Black women, supported by Black youth, Black students, the Black community, Black church, Black mosques, Black fraternities. I want to thank the Pan-Atlantic Council, and particularly the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, for giving us their national headquarters for the national headquarters of the Million Man March. When you see 1 million men standing, and in fact now we're told we have almost 2 million standing, that just didn't happen. It took a lot of people organizing, a lot of people working together to make this happen. And this is not just a one-day event. We're going to continue to march. When we get back home, we're going to continue to organize. When we get back home, we're going to continue to mobilize. When we get back home, we're going to register 8 million unregistered eligible Black voters. When we get back home.
Welcome back to the Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and opinions. The election is still November 3rd, but with many people voting right now, there's a national movement using the art of hip hop to get Black Americans to the polls. I'm talking about Respect My Vote. And you'll also notice a huge focus on people between the ages of 18 to 40. We're going to get into that and much more, because joining us right now to talk more about what I'm told is the longest running, most successful hip hop voter engagement campaign ever, we have the president of the Hip Hop Caucus, Reverend Lennox Yearwood. Welcome to the Black Report.
Thank you for having me. So glad to be here.
We are glad to have you. Thank you for being here. Today is the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March. The march inspired many activists, political leaders like President Obama. Can you tell us what the march meant to you?
Well, it definitely inspired me as well, for many reasons. My fraternity was actually one of the national headquarters at the time, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. So big shout out to my frat brothers. But it was just an amazing moment. I was much younger. That was 25 years ago. I was in undergrad. It was just a powerful moment to see Black men coming together, and it was critical at that time as well.
We just had Dr. Ben Chavis on the show. I want to know what he means to you, because when we were all here taking him in and listening to him, it was powerful just any time you're in his presence. So what does he mean to you?
Well, he means a lot to me. I wouldn't be in hip hop politics if it wasn't for Dr. Ben Chavis, literally. When I was doing organizing and fighting just in general, as I would always do back then, about 20 years ago. And Dr. Ben was working with Russell Simmons, and they had created the Hip Hop Summit Action Network, and they wanted to create a grassroots campaign. And he called me up, and I started working for him then. And it was in that moment that I became, from the grassroots director to the political director for Russell, to the political director for Diddy, and then on and on. And then when, after that election season, we had Voice Your Choice with Jay-Z, we have Citizen Change with Diddy, Hip Hop Summit with Russell, we had the hip hop political convention, which is actually very important, with many of the artists from Rosa Clemente and Bakari Kitwana, and many of those artists who were also pulling, which is still very important. And they all kind of came together to create the Hip Hop Caucus. And at that point in time, there was a question if I would be the president. This between me and at the time, Cousin Jeff.
Jeff, wow.
And I guess they wanted the redhead version for the presidency. So here I am. And I've been here ever since. So definitely, man, without Dr. Ben, I mean, and I learned so much, I think more importantly, about what it meant to have a movement that was sustainable, and also have a movement that was for our people. I think the one thing that he has been is just a man. He's been so consistent about his love for our people and his love for our culture. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the one thing for me that I learned more than anything, because I think a lot of people who are even Black progressives, they aren't always for the culture. And so he has a love for our culture like none other. So I think I just picked that up as well. And he was very similar, him being also a minister, him being in the culture. I mean, so I just got a lot of his ways. I saw earlier he was saying Dipset. I still ain't got, I haven't got that far with Jim Jones and crew yet. I'm probably I'm probably more Tiller Gang right now for myself. But
there you go.
But that's just kind of where we are in the process.
That's amazing. Okay, Reverend, let's talk about the Hip Hop Caucus, because you were saying 25 years ago, we all were younger. So how important is the youth vote? What's the movement behind that? Explain that to our soulmates.
Well, it's important. I mean, we have to use our cultural expression to shape our political experience, and we have to be engaged. This is a matter of life or death. Our parents fought for equality in the 20th century, and while we're definitely still fighting for equality, we're now fighting for existence. So issues from the pandemic to pollution, to poverty, to police brutality. These are issues that can take us out. And I think that we are in a position that we're dealing with that. And then how can we use our culture? We're very fortunate because our culture isn't just Black people, while it focuses on that, and that's who we are. We're very fortunate that our culture is Black, white, brown, red, male, female, straight, gay, theist, atheist. It's human. And so we have an advantage to actually pull in other people who may not understand our plight, but it can be a part of our process as well.
President of the Hip Hop Caucus, Reverend Lennox Yearwood, joining us here on the Black Report. Let's talk about something that we really don't hit on in the African American community, and that's climate change. Yeah. Why is that so important?
Well, it's critical. I mean, because we gotta have clean air and clean water, and I believe that climate change is a civil rights issue, that we have to have clean air and clean water. Now, I mean, it's one of those things. Many of us heard. Then we heard George Floyd say, "I can't breathe." And then we heard before that, Eric Garner said it 6 years earlier, "I can't breathe," both being killed by police brutality. But one of the things that we don't know sometimes is that, for instance, Eric Garner, his daughter, Erica Garner, who took up his cause to fight for him, and every one of Eric Garner's children, Emerald Garner, Erica Garner, and others, they all had asthma, because 68% of Black people live within 30 miles of a coal-fired power plant, causing us asthma and emphysema and even cancer. And so when we see that Erica Garner, who was fighting for her dad, Eric Garner, died because of a heart attack caused by asthma. And so we're either dying from the brutality or the pollution. And I'm originally from Louisiana. And so for me, seeing my family and friends drowning during Hurricane Katrina in the richest country in the world cannot happen. And I think that this is our issue. We're the first and worst who are impacted by climate change. We saw Superstorm Sandy, we've seen Hurricane Maria, we see it now with Hurricane Delta. That's a Greek. I mean, we're going through the whole alphabet.
We went through all the names, Rev. Went through all the names that got to the Greek alphabet. That's crazy.
It's absolutely crazy. And we keep seeing particularly how they think that our communities are the path of least resistance. We saw that Dr. Ben Chavis actually is the one who coined the frame environmental racism. And so when we worked together, when I was up there at the Fat Farm office, we worked together, he would talk about it way back then about how we got to deal with environmental justice and clean air and clean water. Right. So, for me, being in this position in the Hip Hop Caucus, I just was like, we got to keep it going. And so I just felt that, nothing against the environmental movement, but I just felt that it was a little too white, a little too Birkenstock. And I just felt that it was important for our voice to be in this conversation.
What do you think the pros and cons are of hip hop artists jumping into politics for the first time, like Kanye West, Ice Cube, who we have later on in the show? Interested.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you a little bit of breaking news just for your show. When I was blessed to be when I actually took Misdemeanor Elliott to the polls for the first time she voted. Literally, we actually got lost looking for her polling place. We were in a tour bus and she was in her Phantom. And so we drove all the way around like Miami looking for it. And then when she's like, I'm done. And then when we came back, it was like in the bottom of her condo. And when she was so nervous to vote for the first time, this was in 2004, she said, Rev, hold my hand. So I literally held her hand while she was in the booth, outside the booth.
That's beautiful.
And so that is the power of seeing artists who care, like Missy at that time, and many artists who care about voting. And I'm excited. I've been in this for a long time, so I'm excited to hear about Diddy creating a political party.
Yes.
I'm excited, and actually, I'm happy to hear about many artists getting involved. I would just give this bit of wisdom to my brother Ice Cube and Kanye. My wisdom to them is that always go to the people first when you have a political platform. When you go out there and you put your message out there before the people, it creates a problem. And so I think what we're seeing now in regards to and I definitely think Ice Cube is very different than Kanye's situation by far. But I think in particular Ice Cube's situation, I think that, I would hope that, we will hopefully connect. About Caucus, Ice Cube will hopefully connect moving forward past this. Because I think ultimately what he wants, what we all want, is for Black people to do better in this country. Your vote is critical. If you have any questions, go to respectmyvote.com and figure it out.
Love it.
Appreciate having you here, joining us on the Black Report on such a special day. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. All power to the people.
Power to the people. Can't wait for you to come back. Be safe, brother.
Now, here's another moment from the Million Man March.
We plan on getting up, never again to go down. We plan on staying up, never again to sit down. Nobody will ever call us anymore. Richard Wright's the outsider. Ralph Ellison's the invisible man. James Baldwin's Nobody Knows My Name. We're Claude Brown's franchise in the promised land. We are Maya Angelou's I Rise, I Rise, I Rise.
Welcome back to the Black Report on Fox Soul, your daily source for news, views, and opinions. Today is a special edition of the Black Report as we're remembering the Million Man March on this 25th anniversary of that day. Joining us now to give his story of being right there at the march is Dr. Edmund Moore. Welcome to the Black Report, Dr. Moore.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Pleasure to have you, brother.
Why did you feel the need to be there personally at the march that day?
Well, one of the impetuses of me going to the Million Man March was I was living at the time in Ohio, and we had something called the Black Man Think Tank at the University of Cincinnati that Dr. P. Eric Crumit started. And just got to see all these outstanding African-American men.
Okay.
And so when it came time for the Million Man March, I happened to be in school in Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and I decided to go.
Okay. Loving that. Now, how far did you travel during that journey? To make it to the Million Man March, how far did you go?
Well, fortunately, I was in school for a month in Virginia, right. So I didn't have very far. Probably was about 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. That was a quick journey for you.
Yes, I had a bunch of friends meet me there, fraternity brothers and other folks meet me there, and we all attended.
Okay.
Beautiful. Now talk to us what that journey was like and what it meant to you.
It was spiritually uplifting. To have all those talented African-American men there together, some 800,000 to over a million African-American men. There was no violence at all. Everybody was there together. It was cohesive. Programming was excellent.
Beautiful.
Dr. Edmund Moore joining us here on the Black Report. Now talk to us, how did this march inspire you?
In addition to the program, the thing that inspired me the most was the pledge that was held at the end. I think Minister Louis Farrakhan, he was long-winded. I think he had about a 2-hour speech. But at the end of it, he had this pledge that he asked all the Black men to take. And some of the things that stuck out of that pledge was that he told us to work on ourselves and to improve ourselves spiritually, morally, economically, and those type of things, socially and politically. But he also asked us to make sure that we never abused our wives or children and give them a space that they could grow up in. And so that's one of the things I took out of it, was that we were to build up family.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Black Report, Dr. Moore. We appreciate it.
Yes, we really do.
Here is a powerful moment of Dr. Maya Angelou herself.
Clap hands and let's come together in this meeting ground. I say clap hands and let's deal with each other with love. I say clap hands and let us get from the low road of indifference. Clap hands. Let us come together and reveal our hearts. Let us come together and revive our spirits. Let us come together and cleanse our souls. Clap hands. Let's leave the preening and stop imposturing in our own history. Clap hands. Call the spirits back from the ledge. Clap hands. Let us invite joy into our conversation, courtesy into our bedrooms, gentleness into our kitchens, care into our nurseries. The ancestors remind us, despite the history of pain, we are going on people who will rise again, and still we rise.
Brothers, and let's give it to Sister Maya Angelou, our mother and poet laureate and sister and friend. Give it to her. Thank you, sister.
Another amazing moment from the Million Man March.
My grandfathers, my fathers, my brothers, I lift up my voice and raise it high, telling the stories of your children's cries. For our ability to survive the onslaught of the enemy's drugs, guns, and alcohol, his prisons and his killing fields, depends directly on whether you are willing to stand up and resist the outrages that are being heaped upon us as a people and build a new society. Yes, the task is difficult. The odds are against you. But you must organize to find a way or make your own way. You must change today so that tomorrow may dare to be different. And when you have fought back and regained your pride, when you have won some battles, when you are able to tell the stories of your heroism, when you can pass on to your young the tradition of struggle through examples of your having stood up for a better tomorrow, when you take control of our institutions, our media, our schools, when you maximize our economic resources towards our own benefit, when you stop making excuses, when you start standing with our mothers, when you stick it out with your families, when you start mentoring our young, when you start teaching us to be humane, then we can build a new nation of strong people.
Today is the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March. Were you there, and what does it mean to you?
You know, it's an unfulfilled promise we made on that day to make atonement and to clean ourselves up and our neighborhoods up, and we ain't do none of that. So people need to go look at the tape and remember what they said on that day and see if they fulfilling that throughout their lives. And most of us are falling short, myself included. So we got work to do.
Yeah, we definitely have work to do. Thank you, man, once again, for always picking the phone up, being there for the Black Report on Fox. So be safe, man. I look forward to talking to you soon, all right?
Thank you.
All right, man. God bless. Y'all take it easy.
Say to you, Q. Be safe, brother.
All right, we're going to leave you with another moment from Minister Farrakhan of the Million Man March 25th anniversary.
Black man. Now, brothers, in closing, I want you to take this pledge. When I say I want you to say I, and I'll say your name. I know that there's so many names, but I want you to shout your name out so that the ancestors can hear it. Take this pledge with me. Say with me, please. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will strive to love my this day forward, will strive to improve myself spiritually, morally, mentally, socially, politically, and economically, for the benefit of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name, pledge that I will strive to build business, build houses, build hospitals, build factories, and enter into international trade for the good of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name, pledge that from this day forward, I will never raise my hand with a knife or a gun to beat, cut, or shoot any member of my family or any human being except in self-defense. I say your name, pledge from this day forward, I will never abuse my wife by striking her, disrespecting her, for she is the mother of my children and the producer of my future. I say your name, pledge that from this day forward, I will never engage in the abuse of children, little boys or little girls, for sexual gratification. But I will let them grow in peace to be strong men and women for the future of our people. I say your name, will never again use the B word to describe any female, but particularly my own black sister. I say your name, pledge from this day forward that I will not poison my body with drugs or that which is destructive to my health and my well-being. I say your name, pledge from this day forward, I will support black newspapers, black radio, black television. I will support black artists who clean up their acts to show respect for themselves and respect for their people and respect for the ears of the human family.